Hey everybody, welcome again. This is the Real Estate Investing Mastery Podcast, take two. Just there's our second recording because I forgot to hit the record button. I'm a dork. But I'm with Peter. Peter, how are you?
I'm great. How are you?
Awesome. We are continuing our Brilliant at the Basics podcast series. And Peter and I, this is our 12th or so episode that we're doing this on. And we are teaching people kind of like what goes on in our business, what kind of goes on behind the scenes. Those of you who know Peter for a long time, let me just give a quick introduction to him. He's one of the biggest wholesalers in the country. He's doing 30 to 40 deals a month right there in his backyard in Atlanta in a very competitive market. And he's actually now expanding into other markets. I saw one of your emails, Peter, you're going into Florida right now. Is that right?
Yep, we're doing stuff in Jacksonville. We've been doing stuff over in Charleston area. So, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. And so I don't do as many deals. I don't work as much as Peter does. But one of the things that we are doing now is partnering with students all over the country. And we're actually setting up their systems, doing marketing for them, and coaching them along the way and partnering with some of them on deals. So I'm really excited about the opportunity that this market has. And the reason why we do these podcasts is to kind of educate you a little bit and talk about the opportunities that are out there in this business to make a lot of money, to wholesale a lot of deals. It doesn't have to be complicated. It just takes being brilliant at the basics. Peter and I did a book together. We wrote a book called Brilliant at the Basics, and if you go to freebasicbook.com, you can get a copy of that, freebasicbook.com. You just got to pay shipping and handling. And before we jump into our topic, I want to tell you, too, you can go get more information on how to work with us at peterandjoe.com, www.peterandjoe.com. A little video there that we did talks about the opportunity. We got students all over the country right now that are just crushing it. You know, students that live in California that are doing deals in the Midwest, and we're running their marketing campaigns. We're setting up their systems. We're offering the support and the knowledge that they need, and it's pretty phenomenal. It's awesome. I really, really enjoy working with Peter, even though we give each other a hard time and like old, well, anyway, like good old friends. So anyway, I wanted to talk about marketing, Peter. You do a lot of it, okay? And we send tens of thousands of postcards, probably 40, 50,000 postcards a week for our clients all over the country. But let's talk about some of the marketing that you do right now in Atlanta. And as you're growing into these new markets, what kind of marketing are you doing out there for sellers?
Sure. You know, you were just talking about some of our partners actually just cut a check to Dilprit, you know, our partner out in our partner in like Ontario. Yeah. And he and I just did a deal here in Atlanta. So yeah, it's awesome partnering up with people literally all over the nation, and sometimes the deals are happening right in their own backyard. Sometimes we're doing stuff, you know, a little bit closer to home. So it's really good stuff. But you know, the key is, like you said, the marketing piece. And you know, when I talk about marketing, I really point out to people there's two types of marketing as it relates to sellers. There's one where you have an intermediary involved, and there's one direct to seller. An intermediary is when you're marketing through someone else, like you get a realtor to go out there and submit, you know, a couple hundred offers on your behalf. You may get a bird dog to go out there and knock on doors or put some bandit signs out. And then there's other type of marketing, which is direct to seller. You know, the biggest difference in the two really is cost, no cost. Meaning most of the time when you have an intermediary involved, there's no cost to that. You know, you can go out there and get yourself 3 or 4 or 5 agents, give them the basic overview, what you're looking for, what kind of deals you're looking for, and you send them on their way, and they're not going to charge you for their time. They can literally submit hundreds and thousands of offers on your behalf. They could negotiate on your behalf. They could do pretty much all the grunt work that needs to be done. In the end, they could bring the deal to you on the platter. Now, again, in this intermediary side, there is no cost, but the reality of the situation is most of the time, the downside to it is that most of the time you're competing in a public arena. Meaning, you know, again, let's go back to the agents. You know, they're competing through systems like the MLS or the foreclosure market. So the upside is it's not costing you money. The downside is it's a very competitive world when you have an intermediary involved. Now, the other side of the marketing is when you go directly to seller. That's whether you or the company you're with, and you're going after sellers. Now, the downside to to this kind of marketing is almost always it's going to cost you something to do it. For instance, obviously the big avenue here is, for instance, like a direct mail piece, or sometimes people make outbound calls to these sellers. So it's a lot more intensive. It's going to require not only financial resources but time resources. Whereas on the free side, you got intermediaries going out there doing all the work. Here, when you're going to sellers, you're paying money and you're tying up resources, whether it's your own time and effort or employees. Now, the upside to the direct to seller is that, especially in today's market, that's where if you were to lay it all out across the board, I think there's no question that's where a majority of the good deals are located. It's a lot less, it's still competitive environment, but it's a lot less competitive because now, you're taking all the people that don't want to invest money into it. You're taking all the people that don't know how to do it. You're taking all of those people out, and you're communicating directly with the sellers. So it's a lot less competitive. You're working directly with homeowners at that point. So you're dealing directly with the decision makers. The other reason I so much like this side of the model, where you're going directly to sellers, is that the one thing that so many of us forget is in the other side of the model, the non-paid model, a lot of times when you have an intermediary involved, their focus actually changes. For instance, we all know that a realtor's main objective is not to get a property as cheap as possible. Most of the time, a realtor is trying to get as much as possible for it. Let's say you're working with probate administrators, right? Well, again, their goal is not to give away things that are being probated. Their goal is to get as much as possible for those. So now, whereas again, when you're working on this other side of the model where you're paying for things, but you're dealing directly with owners, you no longer have that intermediary involved who may try to maybe potentially jack the price up or get a higher price. So those are really the two sides of the model. The key to marketing, though, is you got to do it. So many times I hear people say, well, yeah, there's no question I'd love to do direct mail, but I don't have an extra $1,000 or a couple $1,000 a month to put into it. Don't ever let that be as a reason not to market. I've built my my story, Joe. I've built this business off this intermediary, working with bird dogs. We still have a bird dog program involved here. And so A, decide which side you want to be on. B, it's okay to be on both sides. But the real key, in my opinion, to marketing is never, ever, ever stop marketing. I know that if I got in this business tomorrow, and if I got in this business with zero money, I know that within the next 3 to 4 days, I'll have leads coming in. Yeah. Might not be seller direct leads. It might not be, paid side of the leads, but I'd be hitting Craigslist. I'd be talking to bird dogs. I'd find myself a couple agents who understand the numbers game, who understands the negotiations, who understands how to submit multiple offers. I'd set that up, and I'd have a variety of leads coming in. And in the end, the key to marketing is this. It's a numbers game. And whichever side of the equation you're on, if you're able to go out there and generate enough numbers, enough opportunities, the numbers will always work out. We just don't know if it's going to be 1 out of 10, might be 1 out of 20, or might be 1 out of 50. But in the end, the numbers will always, always, always work out. So the critical piece about marketing is to do it. And if you do the marketing side, it almost forces you to lay out the rest of the business. It forces you then to get into negotiations and get better at negotiations. It forces you to how to learn to do inspections because you're going to have to go out there and look at some properties. It forces you, if you're going to flip these deals, it forces you to develop a buyer's list. So the marketing not only is the engine that drives the business, marketing is really the heartbeat of this whole business. It's if you do nothing but market, forget learning everything else. Do nothing but market. It'll actually force you to learn everything else. So that's, marketing critical. Make sure you're doing it.
I love that analogy too, because it's like, obviously you got to do marketing to get leads, and you got to have leads to do deals. And you may not understand, and I say this all the time, don't worry about steps 7 and 8 before you start doing steps 1 and 2. And steps 1 and 2 are start marketing and start making offers, right? So sometimes it's kind of like a leap of faith. You got to send out that marketing with the faith that, when these leads come in, I'll figure it out as I go. And it's like jumping off a building and figuring out how to fly as you fall. that's sometimes just, that's what I've heard somewhere that's what birds do. When the babies are coming up, they're growing up, they throw them out of the nest and they'll figure out how to fly as they go. Bad analogy, but the point is, marketing is so critically important in this business. And, we all have goals of how much money we want to make in real estate. We want to make $100,000 a year, $100,000 a month, whatever it is. But you can't control that, right? You can't control how many deals you need to do per month to meet that goal, or what your average profit per deal is to meet that goal. But what you can control is, if you work backwards from that $100,000 a month, okay, how much marketing do I need to do every day, every week to get me enough leads, to get me enough contracts so I can flip enough deals at an average profit of whatever. So this is an exercise I walk through. We did this in the book, and I walk it through with all of my students and clients that I'm working with. If you want to start here and make $10,000 a month, how much marketing do you need to do? We're not in the real estate business. We're in the marketing business, plain and simple. And then the other half of that is sales, negotiating, knowing how to talk to sellers, but that's a topic for another time. I think it's a good time to cut this one off. We try to keep these about 10 minutes long, Peter. Let's do the next one and talk more about direct mail, can we? The types of mail that you send, the type of postcards that you send, things like that. Is that cool?
Yep, absolutely.
All right, guys, so if you want to work with Peter and I, you just want to get some more information, check out peterandjoe.com, peterandjoe.com. This is our high-end program. We work with investors all over the country. We do their marketing for them. We set up their systems for them. It's an application process. You got to apply. Go to peterandjoe.com. Fill out the application. Peter will get on the phone and talk with you, and hopefully get up and running, and we'll take you faster to where you want to go than you could have done it on your own, without a doubt, without a question. So, cool. Thanks a lot, Peter.
Thanks, Joe.